Hello once again, welcome to Pop Kannon. This is episode 9, and today we are talking all about Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse. I'm Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Brian.
I'm Joe.
That's not Andrew.
He's Joe O'Connor here, and he is joining us for this Into the Spiderverse episode.
And Joe was the author of our Reactor Cannon review.
He was. And a great review it was as well.
Yes.
Leave a hateful comment underneath. Let me know.
Send your hate mail to this address.
Make sure you are sure to tell him how bad it was.
The movie or the review, either way.
And Joe in general.
So where do we want to start, guys? Because
what were your overall thoughts? The credits rolled, and then the end credit scene played, and you left the theater. How did you feel?
I had a grin on my face a mile wide.
Nice.
I absolutely loved it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it made me very happy. It was kind of everything that a Spider-Man movie should be, and like it hit the lows and the highs, and it didn't leave me just feeling empty like the end of Infinity.
But that was a good empty.
Yeah.
A wholesome empty.
Yes.
Like kind of empty when you're walking into a Chipotle.
And sometimes out of one.
Yeah, I know I will be hollowed out soon enough.
And out of the Chipotle bathroom.
So I loved it, and honestly, it kind of re-inspired me to go actually buy comics. So after seeing the movie, I went to my local comic book shop. I bought a bunch of comics, including the original Spider-Verse graphic novel.
Oh, wow.
And I was just over the moon with it.
I had already read all the good ones.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun, and I genuinely was smiling for probably 80% of the movie. So it was really a really great film that I'm glad I went to go see and didn't wait for.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when the initial trailers dropped for it, I wasn't sure exactly what it was going to be. I wasn't sure if it was going to be a direct-to-DVD movie or just a digital streaming movie somewhere, but I was very happy to see that they released the animated film in theaters, and it's doing very well.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was going to be for a different reason. I didn't know how they were going to tell this story, especially as an introduction to Miles or Spider-Gwen. But I thought they really they did all those things in a really cool way. And
yeah,
art style and everything, going to these different universes and committing to that style even when they cross over. I loved it.
Yeah, when I saw the first trailer, I didn't know what to make of it because one, the animation style was so different than anything we've ever seen, so stylized, and I didn't know if it was even going to be more just an absolute outright kids movie, you know?
Yeah, that was my chief concern going into it, and I think they towed the line of family friendly, but also just fun. It wasn't.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was more than enough action in it to keep an older mind interested, rather than just bright colors.
Right. The reviews for it that came out were just from sources that I trust. They were great, and I was like, oh man, I got to see this. But then I get into the theater, and every single trailer leading up to it is a kids movie. I'm like, I don't know about this.
Yeah, I definitely felt that for sure.
But thankfully, it was not. It was. It is one of the best animated films I've ever seen, and it's just one of the best films I've ever seen, period.
I made the bold declaration in saying that this was my favorite Spider-Man film ever.
That's understandable.
And a few weeks after seeing it and letting it sink in, I still agree with that statement.
Nice. Yeah, I can't say it's my favorite Spider-Man film of all time, but it is one of the. and that's like up in the top 3. You know.
Yes, we know.
Like that same way that like you can't like you could never look at like the live action movies when you talk about like, oh, it's a kids movie. Like, I mean, all the superhero movies at the end of the day, they're going to be primarily geared towards kids, even if it's like in us. Considering it as a kids movie doesn't mean that it has to automatically like shoot down, like have to like really like work its way out of that hole. I think like a really good kids movie can be a good movie without having to like pander to kids too much. Like even we saw, you know, like they can't show like the bullets or the blood, but like they're still covering these adult themes. They're covering death. And I think when kids have these like really great things like that they're exposed to, that's how they grow up as fans. Like when we're exposed to like Batman, the animated series as a kid, that's why we still love it now.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that statement anymore. As far as like being a fan of something and growing with it, as opposed to sectioning off parts of your audience and just kind of having it be what it is. And I've seen a lot of debate recently since Spiderverse came out, especially about how animated films, like, people look down on them. And that's just not the case. Like, most animated films, especially today, like, they put out some of the best content.
Well, this was in production for what, 3 or 4 years?
Oh yeah, well, most animated films are so.
Because I saw in the in the credits, I think it said it was like each frame took like a week to work on or something like that.
Wow.
It was some crazy thing like that, and employed over like 400 people over that time or something like that. It was nuts. It was some crazy numbers.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the animation and the style of the film.
Well, dude, I love the style of this.
Yeah.
Because right from the beginning, you're hooked into it. There were moments I didn't see it in 3D. I actually didn't even see it at a theater that had stadium seating. I was just sitting in a row, watching a huge, massive screen with this film on it, and it didn't take away from it at all for me. I thought that I was missing something because there were certain parts that looked like they were supposed to be 3D, but they were fuzzy. Mm-hmm. But they were, from what I read, it was intentional.
Yeah. Yes.
To mimic, like, I guess, what would it be? A printing press that would be like off a little bit or something like that.
Like the
right.
Method of making. Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that aspect of it, and then like Joe had said, going into each specific character's artwork from each of their individual books and pulling them all together. That was such a cool thing. Like, because we've seen, I guess, different animated movies or whatever, where like if a character goes to a different universe, he looks like those characters.
Right.
They've done that a bunch on like Nickelodeon and stuff like that. But this one, they kept all of them unto themselves.
Right.
So like when Spider-Gwen comes up, she has like that brush style coloration, like I don't remember the artist's name in the book, but the way that they had colorized that, it was really neat for me.
But yeah, Perry Parker, she's got the anime style,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Spider-Man Noir is just straight black and white.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Spider-Ham.
And Spider-Ham was a Looney Tunes-esque.
Of course.
That was a lot
forget
of fun. It was a lot of fun. I loved that this was an origin film for Miles.
Yeah.
Because I didn't expect that at all. I thought they were just going to really throw you in the deep end, but he was the anchor to bring you through all of it, which I thought was fantastic.
I didn't just commit to killing Peter. That's like one of like the biggest things for me in the book, but I really didn't think they were going to go for it. I thought they were just going to have him be like the Spider-Man in his world.
Yeah, I initially thought that Miles wound up in his universe initially. And then the more trailers that we got, I was like, wait a minute, so everyone else is coming to him? Okay, so he's the Spider-Man of his universe.
So Chris Pine did Miles's universe's Peter Parker, which
Right.
Yeah.
watching it, I could not figure out who that voice was, but it was so familiar.
Oh, really?
I couldn't figure
Yeah.
it out, but it was so familiar. And then when the credits rolled, I was like, "Son of a bitch! I know who that. God damn it!" Like,
Yeah, it was jarring because even just having had seen the one trailer that I saw, you're expecting Jake Johnson.
yeah,
Because Jake Johnson's voice, I don't want to say iconic, but it's very easy to pick his voice out. And then it was jarring that, like, oh, wait, that's not Jake Johnson. What happened?
but there were certain points where I was like, "Is it Jake Johnson?" Like, I was still questioning it a little bit.
I guess it's the voice actor in me and so forth. Like, I after a few lines, I knew it was Chris Pine, but I was like, okay, well, that's cool. Chris Pine is this Spider-Man. That's cool. And
Yeah.
then I was like, okay, so then we'll get Jake Johnson's Spider-Man later on, hopefully.
And I love that.
I thought that was a really cool.
I love that he was the depressive, slightly overweight Peter B. Parker.
But Christ, that was so great.
Older. So it was like he had that like blonde Peter had, but then 10 years of the Parker luck.
Yeah. And just touching on the blonde Peter for a quick second, when he took his mask off and I saw he was blonde, I immediately thought, oh my God, that's Ben Reilly.
I think that was the intention.
Yeah.
That was the clear intention there was to have him be blonde, to give you Ben Reilly without giving you Ben Reilly.
Yeah.
Which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
But we're in the middle of talking about the voice actors. I mean,
What a cast.
Has a better cast been assembled? Dude, they were all so good. Shamik Moore,
Yeah.
unbelievable as Miles, dude.
Perfect.
He immediately pulled you into his world and had you believing in Miles as a person and as a character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right from the start when he doesn't know the words to the song.
Yeah.
But he like that just latches you onto that character from the get.
That's such a human thing to be able to.
Sorry, you guys don't know all the words to all of the songs.
I mean, I might, having listened to the soundtrack a million times.
We'll get there. We'll get to the soundtrack.
I knew that going in. I had seen his name, Mahershala Ali. Like, I knew that he was in the cast, but I did not, like, the entire time I'm listening to Uncle Aaron, I'm not realizing that was him.
I couldn't tell if he was playing the father or the uncle, but I definitely heard him.
I knew the father was is it Brian Tyree Henry or
Yes.
Tyree Brian
Yes.
Henry? Yeah. I knew that was him because I knew his voice from the Seasons of Atlanta I've seen. So I knew that was him.
Gotcha.
But yeah, like Mahershala Ali did such a great job as Uncle Aaron, like that I didn't think to myself like when Chris Pine's voice came in, like, oh, okay, that was Chris Pine. Like, he was just Uncle Aaron, you know?
Right, exactly.
So like it didn't draw you out to hear that voice. It just you stayed in the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
But Haley Steinfeld, she did a great job as Gwen, as Spider-Woman. Nicolas Cage,
Yeah.
as Spider-Man Noir, had some of the best lines.
I think Nicolas Cage as an actor has more than proven himself worthy of just knocking it out of the park every single time with any role he's given.
Or even going the opposite of not knocking it out of the park. He's capable of both extremes.
Yeah, well, sometimes he's such an exquisite actor that it goes all the way around to becoming terrible acting. But sometimes he flirts the line. But I loved, because I guess, like, when I saw that he was in it, I was like, oh, it's a joke bit. And then when you listen to what his character is doing and saying and living in Miles's universe and not really knowing what's going on, like the whole Rubik's Cube bit, like,
Oh God, that was great.
like, it was kind of a joke bit regardless. So I appreciated that it was aware enough of itself, you know?
It was a serious joke bit.
Right.
And then, of course, Spider-Ham, John Mulaney, just
His
so
first
great.
theatrical role.
Yes. is Spider-Ham. Is Peter Porker.
He actually did an interview with one of the late night shows where he said, like, initially they couldn't tell him what the movie was that he was auditioning for. So he's like, I walked in and then they eventually told me, and I'm reading for the part. And he's like, so I'm cursing up a storm because they're telling me do whatever you want. And then he stops and he goes, well, what's this rated? And they were like, oh, PG. And he's like, so you can't use literally any of that footage that we just recorded.
Yeah, they had to cut like everything because it wasn't usable.
and that was with Mr. James Fallon.
Yeah.
The humor overall was just the best. I mean, like, you know, like we were just talking about earlier, Spider-Ham is just it's just nonstop, you know, Looney Tunes-ish, complete slapstick stuff and cartoonism, you know, cartoonishness. But even more than that, the overall movie was hilarious.
Yeah.
I think it was one of the funniest movies I've seen in a while. I was laughing my ass off.
Yeah, dude, definitely. There were definitely some moments where I belly laughed hard.
Yeah.
At Miles going to the top of a very tall building to learn how to be Spider-Man, and then
yeah,
realizing how tall it was and running down the stairs, and then
going
3 buildings over, it's about
that was so
10
great.
stories shorter, and he was like, "That's the one." I lost it.
Yeah, that was great because I love how they take a lot of moments from other Spider-Man works, you know, especially other Spider-Man movies, and play with that, because that's, as soon as he does that, he's like, oh, okay, this is him testing his powers out, and it's like, maybe not like that.
Yeah.
But just like how Joe had wrote, there's 7 Spider-Man movies in live action before this, so like they were able to play with all of that.
Yeah.
And even like that's something that comes up with Miles a lot, is like he's trying to mimic how Peter did it. And we saw that in the movie too, where he has to find his own way, and like each of the different Spider had their own way. And I thought that was really fun, that like you can like look back on everything that came before, but there's still new things you can do.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Joe, you have read a lot of the Ultimate Spider-Man books with Miles in it.
All of them.
How would you say the movie did translating him from the books to the film?
I thought they did really well, especially with that aspect of like Peter's 16 when he gets bit, so he's like kind of like, you know, getting towards adulthood. But Miles he's in like 8th grade, and like they cheated that a little bit with like giving him growth spurt after the fight, but like his child, and like seeing them faced with that kind of trauma is really great. And like love. They kept a lot like committed to the book, like Prowler, and like just the fact that you have a really cool looking Prowler in a movie blew me away. His relationship, but then they also kind of that world a little like the main Marvel world than the Ultimate world, I thought, which was a good move, especially considering how Miles ended up in that new universe, because it was so successful when they were going to kill that line off.
So in the Ultimate books, is Doc Ock who she was in the film?
Yeah. No, Doc Ock was still just Doc Ock, so that was completely original for the film. I think in Spiderverse, like one like alternate universe story, there might be a female Doc Ock, but
I know
that was
I loved that, by the way. I thought
I didn't see that coming at all.
No.
And then
They
when it
kept
happened,
that.
I was like, "Holy shit!" You know, like I was completely blown away by that.
I know, you know, this being an animated film, and so I don't think a lot of people saw just how great it was going to be coming, and the story that was involved, you know, other than all the Spider-Men and Spider-Woman coming together. But they kept a really great lid on that shit. Like, when she said Olivia Octavian, was like, oh fuck,
yeah,
oh, fuck,
because they only called her.
Shit's about to get real.
Yeah, they only called her Liv up to that point, I think.
Right.
And then
and
happens.
Like her name is on the projector when Miles walks
right,
into the classroom.
right,
Stand in front of the last name, so you never see.
Right.
Oh. That's awesome.
But even when Tombstone showed up, I was like, oh shit, there's Tombstone. Like,
Yeah.
I loved all the shit in this movie like that because it made me even hearken to, and I know we'll talk about this in a future podcast, but in the Spider-Man PS4 game, because that has Tombstone in it, it just and I loved these takes. I never would have thought, like, if you had told me, like, hey, there's an animated Spider-Man film coming out and it's gonna have a female Doc Ock, I'm like, fuck you. But it was awesome, and the animation for it was great. Oh god, she was amazing.
Her arms were so cool looking because they were like a plastic type thing almost.
Yeah.
And Joe, you had mentioned Prowler earlier.
Oh god.
I don't know that anyone has ever been able to successfully create the level of dread that I had when Prowler was like in motion on screen.
I was just gonna say, I will go you one better, Rob. I found that Prowler to be terrifying, and that's an animated movie. I was terrified.
I was scared shitless 4 miles. Like, oh my god.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I honestly love the Prowler, and I love that character and that relationship in the book. I did like in the book. Uncle Aaron finds out that he's Spider-Man, and then he tries to kind of like use him in his like schemes. So like I liked that Aaron got that redemption in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, like how many people has he killed? We don't know.
Right.
It was a very heartfelt arc for him. And I mean, we already said with the casting was perfect. Like he brought a lot of drama to that animated role. And
yeah.
Prowler, Uncle Aaron, we were both like scared of him, scared for him, like love him at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they really nailed it. I don't think they're gonna go that route with Donald Glover, but
well, that's
right.
It's funny that you mentioned that because, like, in the back of my head, I knew that was the connection because it was the Easter egg in Homecoming. But
right.
I forgot within the framework of this movie that was a thing. So when the reveal happened, it was like I hadn't known it at all.
Oh, okay.
I was like, oh my god! Like I was so devastated by it, and
yeah,
I completely forgot that was a thing. I was like, that's probably his uncle, right? It's his uncle or his dad. It's probably his uncle. And then they take the thing off, and I was like, holy shit! Oh my god, this is gut wrenching.
and the way that they did that reveal too, with Miles being in his apartment, and then the window slides up, like. It was great. The musical cues that they used for Prowler as well was great. It goes back to when you were saying the fear and the dread. It helped build that tension.
It was like what Hans Zimmer did for Joker in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, as much as the movie was hilarious and the humor was pervasive and great, the drama that the emotional core was also just as resonating,
Yeah, and the base premise of the movie and why everything is happening is that Kingpin is his wife and son had died, and he was trying to go to other universes to steal the Vanessa and his son from other universes to bring them to him.
Yep.
Which was just like that's like a not a cookie cutter bad guy plot, but like that's a classic villain move. Like everybody else be damned, I just want this one thing.
Right.
Like the whole city's gonna go to rubble. Fuck
I don't care. Yeah.
I get my wife and son, and that's all I need. I loved that, and I loved the design of Kingpin. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
I love that we got Tombstone in this as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got
That's
a Green Goblin. Massive fucking Green Goblin
that they killed.
Yeah.
I saw the 10-inch pop of that at Target the other day, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's huge!"
Oh wow!
And you didn't buy it?
I didn't buy it. It was pre-Christmas. I couldn't.
You can't animate that Kingpin getting out of a car, so you have to cut away until he's out.
But yeah, no, just going back to what I was saying with like the emotional core, like, we see, like you mentioned earlier, the Peter Parker of Miles' universe dies. Like we don't see the murder happen, but we see around it.
We get very close to seeing that murder happen.
We do. No, we do. Yeah, but it's PG, so they can't literally show him being crushed to death by Kingpin's hands. But
Miles watches it.
yeah,
I'll tell you all about it.
and and then we get the different stories from all the other Spider-Men. So like, we get that Gwen, that she saw her Peter Parker die.
I haven't read any of the Ultimate Spider-Man universe, but I have read almost all of what exists of Spider-Gwen, and she's one of my favorite current comic book characters at the moment, because her book is just so much fun. And I was kind of sad that we didn't get into it, but I feel like they definitely left the door open for future installments to explain Spider-Gwen's end of things, because she was kind of alluding to what happened, but never really said it.
Right.
And basically in her universe, Peter Parker becomes her Green Goblin, correct? And then she kills him?
The Lizard.
The Lizard, that was it.
Wow.
Yeah. So in her universe, he becomes the Lizard by doing very similar tests and stuff that Connors does in the, I guess, main canon, or however you want to word that.
Earth 616.
Right. So he does that, and she has to, in order to stop him, she has to kill him.
Wow.
So when she alludes to, I had a best friend die, and I lost my Peter too, she's not telling you that they're the same person.
Oh, wow.
So that's the same character thing. So I hope in future installments we get that, because that would be awesome. If they just did a straight up Spider-Gwen movie, I would die.
Oh yeah.
I think after the success of this one, especially like winning a Golden Globe for Best Animated Feature, I think the door is open for literally anything.
Good.
Because I would be opening day tickets to see Spider-Gwen animated film. Like, I would be there.
Absolutely.
I had heard rumors of a team up with Spider-Gwen and Silk.
I saw that too.
I'd be okay with that.
Hell yeah.
Silk is a great character too, who I'd love to see.
Yeah.
Her origin is weird, but
once you get past that.
Once you get up past the pheromone thing, then you're good. But that's a can of worms.
I loved how the Jake Johnson Peter Parker, how we get, while it's hilarious that he's, paunchy and a bit of a slob and so forth, we do get a little bit of his emotional backstory that, he and Mary Jane reached a point where I think they were married. Yeah, no, they were married. They were married, and then she wanted kids, and he's like, I don't know if I can do that. And then they got a divorce. And I was like, oh fuck, that's real.
That hurt. That hurt.
And then that whole sequence where he sees Miles' universe as Mary Jane, and he's just like, he really wants to say something,
right?
But he just can't. He can't bring himself to do it, and they're trying to force him not to, obviously.
Right.
And then he tries, and she's just like, "Yeah, we need more bread."
Yeah, because they're dressed up as the waiters.
Yeah, and he's like, "I will get you anything that you need. I will do anything for you." And she's like, "Well, we need more bread." And he's like, "You will have all of the bread."
Oh, god damn it!
And that's why Jake was perfect for that, because he plays that character like so well.
Yeah.
So he's fantastic, dude.
Nick Miller going, "This is my nightmare," is just one of my greatest. It's one of the greatest things in sitcom history.
It was more in hindsight after I saw it the first time that I was like, why was Mary Jane even at that dinner? She knows who the Kingpin is. She knows Spider-Man's relationship to the Kingpin. Why the Kingpin would put on this gala in remembrance of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
That's one of those little plot holes. Like I noticed that another one was like when Spider-Woman is at the school, like that was a little bit of thing. Like, how the fuck did she get into that school? That's one of those things I didn't really think about.
Because they talk about how difficult it was for Miles to get in, and
Right.
stay in, and she's just there.
she's there as someone who hasn't existed before.
Right.
So.
She has a locker too. Like,
But yeah, there are little things like that.
My only nitpick coming out of it, because I didn't even really notice those two, was why Aunt May was like Alfred.
yeah.
That kind of bugged me, but otherwise, I was all in for it.
No, why does she kick the door out of her own home?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily like Aunt May being the Alfred of their universe for whatever reason.
That kind of ties in with my one little nitpick is, as cool as it was to see all of the suits in that hidden underground bunker, I really wasn't a fan of that being a thing and him having like a bat cave.
Yeah, that was weird. It was very weird.
How did he dig it out?
Yeah.
in a very suburban place.
Science.
Yeah. Peter Parker uses science.
Stand back, Aunt May. I'm about to do science.
She's like, "Oh, Peter." So what was Jordan? What was your favorite sequence?
Honestly, it was probably when Miles led all of the villains back to Aunt May's house and they just tore it apart. And she was like, "Take it outside!" But that sequence where they paired off with Scorpion, I thought that was really, really cool and really well done.
Joe, what was your favorite sequence?
Mine is probably the heist of Alchemax, because like it just like taking them out of that city element.
Yeah, that was cool.
Spider-Man, and then like the twist with Dr. Octopus is really cool. Second would probably just be like the My Uncle Ben scene, like where they're all like sharing like this is what it means to be Spider-Man. It's not always like the jokes and the kicks, but it's like dealing with the tragedy that comes with this role.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I didn't think that John Mulaney as Spider-Ham would make me emotional, but he did.
Brian, what was yours?
So I knew that this question was going to come up, and I started thinking about it earlier today. I don't know why it is, but for an animated film, I can't say what a favorite sequence is.
Boo!
Wait, no. Well, hear me out. It's really easy to do that for a live action film, and I don't know why for an animated film I can't, because I loved everything about this movie. It in an animated film, like it all goes together, you know?
Yeah.
What was your favorite scene?
Well,
I'll tell you what my favorite thing was. My favorite thing about it was Prowler. Okay. Prowler was so fucking terrifying, dread-filling. Like, just the animation for him was great. The colors they used, like the technology of the suit itself, just like was Uncle Aaron, and then bring in the fact that that he dies, and there's that gut punch, and that his brother is the one who finds him after Miles has to leave him in the alley. And I thought Aaron / Prowler, he's my favorite thing in the movie.
Okay. My favorite sequence, I knew somebody would probably say the forest sequence after they had stolen the computer,
right?
Because I really enjoyed that, and that the final fight had a lot happening, so I can't necessarily say that, even though it was fun to watch. My favorite sequence would have to be when Miles and Peter B. Parker first meet, and there's the pull behind on the train. That I was rolling.
Oh God, that was great.
I was rolling with laughter. The constant smacking into stuff and just their voice work back and forth, reacting to everything happening. I was dying at that part. I loved it.
The only part that I didn't like about that was it kind of pulled me out when his face was being dragged across the concrete, because I was like, he would be dead. That would just murder the man.
Spider-Ham exists. Nothing matters.
Another one of my favorite scenes in the film was when Miles first got his powers. Yeah. And he's like trying to navigate how it's working, and he's like climbing up the side of the building
Or how
hilarious.
he was sticking to everything and not sure how to release quite
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
That was cool. Oh shit, that was good.
Brian, speaking of Jefferson Davis, his dad, I thought he was awesome.
Yeah.
Especially when he came to Miles's door to try and talk to him.
Oh, that was. Oh, yeah. No, that was a great scene too. And meanwhile, Miles is tied up by all the other Spider Men and Spider Woman, and so literally he cannot reply. It was rough.
Yeah, I mean they did a lot to balance those things, and that's why I think it worked so well, because you rode that roller coaster of like, I'm laughing and now I'm sad, but now I'm happy and now I'm scared, and now like they just constantly ping ponged you back and forth between those emotions, and I think that's why it worked so well.
I will say the biggest laugh I got, because you were saying, Robert, you belly laughed too, and that was great. I laughed the most to the post credit scene because one, I didn't realize they were going to go for that, so it was at first you're like, oh shit, it's Spider-Man 2099, and then they drop him into the fucking meme.
Yeah, yeah, they did. They just put him right in that meme.
I was hurting because I was laughing so hard.
I knew that the end credit was to introduce another Spider-Man.
Okay.
Because I had read that prior to seeing it, and I wasn't. Because that wasn't necessarily a spoiler to me, because there were already so many. In my head, it was just which one in the movie that wasn't used is going to happen. You know,
is it Spider-Punk? Is it
right? It could have been like there's a litany of other Spider-Men.
Bill Spider-Mans.
So when it was 2099, I audibly was like, yes.
I that got me because I wasn't expecting the meme part.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Fucking great. I'm still running through my head and laughing.
But as soon as like the AI voice came on, I immediately knew it was 2099. I was like, nice, Miguel O'Hara.
Well, I think the first thing it said, it was like Nueva York.
Yeah.
Nueva York. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
The Spider-Man soundtrack.
Oh,
yes.
God, the music was great.
No, I don't mean the soundtrack to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean the in.
Oh my god!
Soundtrack.
You mean the Christmas album?
The Christmas album that Spider-Man did.
They wound up releasing that.
No,
they did. It is now streaming on Spotify.
Was it Spider Bells?
Yes.
God damn it. Oh, fucking A.
I was, dude, that played over the credits also, and I was like, oh my god. The lyrics are great.
Uh-huh. Well, even right at the beginning, when Chris Pine's Spider-Man goes through everything, and he's like, I was losing my shit to that, just at the mere premise of that.
Yeah, because he was like, I did some stuff that I'm not necessarily happy about, and he shows the dancing thing, and then the Christmas album.
And this is the first cameo that has happened since he passed, and I was almost bawling like a little child in the theater when that happened.
It was the message of the cameo. Like, that was the thing that killed me.
God. Yeah, absolutely.
And the filmmakers like went on to say, like, because the movie was in production for so long, that they were sharing stuff with Stan, like, up until the point where he was just not able to see the entire film completed. So the message that was originally intended hit one way before Stan's death, but now after it hits a completely different way.
Yeah. So want to do final thoughts, or
well, we got to talk about the soundtrack.
Oh, the soundtrack. Oh, right, the non-fake soundtrack.
Right. The actual Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse soundtrack, which
was amazing.
It captivated me from the very beginning all the way through the end of the credits, to the point where in the car I listened to it on the way home, and then I don't think I've stopped listening to it since.
I listened to it on my way home tonight from work.
Yeah, it sounds like a playlist Miles would make for himself, like
Ha.
to swing through the city. Like it's very personal. Like it doesn't sound like it was made for this movie. It was like Miles made it for himself, and like I really loved that.
That's an awesome poll.
Yeah.
Because I don't go out of my way currently to listen to like new hip hop and rap, but I will listen to this endlessly, and I love the idea that every song I visualize exactly where it was in the film. Every single track, like from the beginning to the end, I know I'm basically rewatching the movie every time I listen to the album.
Nice.
That's how vivid all of those songs were and how vibrant all of it was.
I got to be honest, guys. I don't know how you're listening to any music now that we have Pitbull's "Ocean to Ocean" to listen to, because honestly, it is the greatest song ever written. And we'll just leave that at that. No,
I'm gonna pull that clip. I'm gonna pull that clip and post it all over social media
Oh shit!
and not give any context behind it.
no. The Spiderverse soundtrack is great. The score was great.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those rare, beautiful movies that just fires on all cylinders, and the music is one of those things.
So, Joe, I have a question. In the Ultimate Comics, when Miles eventually becomes Spider-Man, did he get his suit kind of similar to how he got it in the film?
No.
Okay, because I thought that was really interesting how he spray painted over the suit.
The way they did it was actually way better. Like I love that it was very personal, and like him being his own Spider-Man. In the comics, Nick Fury feels bad because it's his fault that Peter died, so he makes it his mission to not let Miles die. So he gives like Shield branded scooters and the new suit.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, because I loved the fact that he like spray painted the suit and like left the fingertips like red.
Yeah.
And everything like.
Poster, like I saw that like the doodly looking spider on his chest, and I was like, why does the suit look like that? But like after seeing the movie, like I love it. Like I'm like, that's perfect.
I can almost guarantee that they're going to retcon that into future books.
Oh,
Like that's going to be that's going to be how he acquires his suit, is how the movie showed it.
That would be cool.
He'll run into Peter and he'll be like, is that one of my suits?
He'd be like, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. The ear parts are really thick. And I'm pretty sure those, those Jordans always sell really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they've like shot back up again.
Yeah, for sure.
Or wait, I believe those are Air Force Ones. I'm not 100%. I keep getting ads for those sneakers on my Instagram, so I just keep seeing the red, white, and black Nike high tops, and I'm like, you keep showing these to me, I'm going to wind up buying them. It's just going to happen.
It's because you listen to the soundtrack over and over and over and over again. I was very happy that they got the PS4 suit in the movie in the background.
Yeah. That was cool. That was cool.
So like one little thing that I noticed on my second watch through, but like I hope that it like comes into effect in like the sequels, is that the spider that bit Miles, it was like glitching, which I didn't notice until the second time, or else I would have mentioned that.
Mm-hmm.
But like, that makes him like as much a product of like the Spiderverse, because the spider may have come from a different universe.
Oh,
Interesting.
I did notice the glitching, and I couldn't figure out if it was just part of that art style that I was like, maybe this was supposed to be 3D kind of thing. But I found it interesting that the bottom of all of the legs was glowing like Spider-Gwen's shoes.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe there's like a connection to that somehow.
I think that was supposed to be like a venom blast, but it did give it like almost like a cybernetic look, which is
A little bit.
like with like the Alchemex branding, like it's like a genetically modified spider.
And even, dude, just that scene where him and his uncle go to that deep part of like the unused subway or whatever.
That was so cool.
And they just spray paint and like it was like such a neat bonding moment for the two of them. Like you understand their relationship immediately. It's just like his uncle is like the cool guy that his dad doesn't trust, but like obviously he looks up to him because of that.
Right.
Such a neat play with all of that stuff, dude. I loved that.
I also really enjoyed like the little nods to like Brian Michael Bendis and like Todd McFarlane on the cell phone.
Yes.
Sarah
Yes.
Pacelli.
That was cool.
I think we also got like Dan Slott in there as well.
Yeah, and like in Miles's universe, everything is just slightly different than ours. So like Coca-Cola was called something different. Like everything in Times Square was like a tad off.
A Seth Rogen movie and Clone High still on the air apparently.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we put a pin in this?
You know, I do want to just go back real quick to the animation style. It really was a comic book brought to life.
Yeah.
I saw it in the IMAX 3D.
Nice. Oh my god.
It was and I made an effort to go see it that way because I had heard someone review it on the radio that I've never really heard review movies, and he was so energetic about having seen it in IMAX 3D and that it was so amazing, and it was mind blowing how good it looked. But it really was a comic book brought to life, and you know, it's not just the visuals. It's the story was great, the acting was great, the music, everything about it was just amazing. It was an amazing Spider-Man.
Wow! Credits.
Boom.
Joe, what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, like we said earlier, this is the same people that did the Lego movie, and like with that, they made you believe that it was like stop Lego. And just like Brian said, like they put a lot of work into making this look like it was just pages brought to life and animated, and I fell in love with that. Like I think Sony's doing their animation department's doing a really amazing thing.
Yeah, I think this is definitely the way for Sony to soldier forward in the future. I mean, I wouldn't, just because it's my own personal opinion that they should fold their Spider universe or Venom universe or whatever that is, and just if they focused solely on pumping these out, they would be killing it. Absolutely killing it, and nobody would question,
no doubt,
any of their decisions, even if they released, because they have all of the rights to them within that framework, so they could do whatever they want. Obviously, with doing Spiderverse, like that's huge. I wish they would slightly pivot and just be like, you know what, we'll give, because that way everybody wins. They get to release Spider-Man and make money on Spider-Man because that's all they really want to do, I guess.
Right.
And then everybody else would get what they want live action wise elsewhere in the MCU.
If they had made Venom an animated film, I might have gone to see it.
Yeah.
Might have being the key word.
Might have.
But it was interesting that he wasn't even...
They're saving him.
Oh, no, absolutely. They're saving him. It's just, it was interesting that he wasn't even meant, like, none of that was even a thing. So,
well, that's what I think about Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man and Batman have the best rogues gallery in comic 100%. Books. So they could pull anyone out for the Spider-Man movies. It doesn't have to be Venom.
No.
Yeah. They very nearly had a Sinister Six in this movie. So
yeah.
But I loved this movie. Like I said, it's my favorite Spider-Man film. It hit every emotion that it needed to hit. It I felt like I knew the characters. I really liked some of the designs of some of the characters. Everything just fit together really well. Everything clicked. And I welcome the next.
Yeah, how do they even market it? I guess it would just be Spider-Man, other name now, and
It could just be like Edge of the Spider-Verse or something.
Okay.
You know, like,
Could do that.
yeah, they're doing Spider-Geddon now.
That's a third movie kind of title, though.
For anyone who's, by the way, for anyone who's listening to this and you haven't seen it and we just spoiled it for you, still go see it, because while it did just win a Golden Globe, it's not doing super great, like budget wise, box office wise. Like it's made like I think 250 million, something like that, maybe 300 million. So it could stand to do better.
Oh, it definitely deserves more, but hopefully it'll get a Golden Globes bump.
Yeah, hopefully.
And just more people talking about how great it was. I know that I wanted to see it and wasn't able to for scheduling reasons when it came out, but due to everybody else's incessant, like, no, dude, it's awesome, you have to go, I went. So I'm hoping that more word of mouth pushes more people into seats.
So yes, overall thoughts, go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Tell your friends about Pop Kannon.
Yeah. Go to the Spider Cinema and get some spider corn and sit down and watch Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
In a spider chair.
Where 7 Spider-Men gather in one universe to take down the evil Kingpin and stop him from Haldron Collider connecting universes together. Super Collider.
Spider Collider.
The Small Hadron.
The Spider Collider. I enjoy the alliterative, the Spider Collider.
Anyway, so this has been episode 9 of Pop Kannon. I'm Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Joe.
Joe!
Yay!
Big thank you to Joe for joining us.
Thank you guys.
All right. Well, what did Spider-Ham say before leaping into the Super Collider?
Copyright infringement.
Exactly.
Oh, he wanted to say.
So that was episode 9, all about Sony Animation's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which just crossed $300 million at the box office worldwide. Also, one of the songs on the soundtrack, Sunflower, just hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 this week. So what did you guys love about the movie? Did you enjoy the action scenes? Did you prefer the more heartfelt moments? Who was your favorite character and why? Which villain was your favorite? Let us know. We want to hear what you thought of this awesome film. You can find us on Facebook.com/PopCannonPod. You can follow us over on Twitter @PopCannonPod. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube by searching Pop Kannon Podcast. Don't forget the special K. My script says here something about a winking emoji. Anyway, you can search out, subscribe, and like this podcast across the following platforms: iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Anchor, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Breaker, Castbox, Radio Public, and the aforementioned YouTube. So make sure you crash and smash that like, retweet, and or subscribe button. And if, for some absurd reason, you think adding more of us to your lives is something you want, you can do that too. I, Robert, can be followed on Twitter and Instagram @Yesball. Jordan is on Twitter and Instagram @JL24FPS. Joe O'Connor can be followed on Twitter and Instagram @JoeForBroke. And Brian? Well, we were recently just following Brian. He usually leaves the window open on his fire escape for us to come and go as we please when Dad's being a real jerk. We went over to lay low for a while when this terrifying masked villain entered the apartment the same way. We hid behind the TV and waited for the coast to be clear to get the fudge out of there. But we're pretty sure he knows... Thanks for listening. We love you guys.